Okay, we are here talking about the process of getting creator content into what I will call traditional or mainstream television, whether or not it can be done, how it can be done, how we're going to make money with it, and how we're going to figure it out. For the record, I'm recording this show, and you'll notice that I'm recording it horizontally, not vertically. Does anyone want to guess why I'm doing that? It's going to air on
TV.
It's going to air on TV, which is a horizontal format, not a vertical format. Okay, first of all, tell us who you are, what do you do, and why we should listen to you.
Okay, hi, my name is Jennifer Turner. I'm the founder and CEO of a next-gen content studio called Magical Media. We're all about supporting emerging creators, giving them the resources they need to tell their stories in partnership with advertisers and optimizing our content for FAST and AVOD platforms. I've been working in the business for almost 25 years in the business and the creative side, so I'm looking at the best practices of traditional media and bringing that into next-gen content formats.
And everybody will notice she kept that under 60 seconds. Braden, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Braden Blacker, the CEO and founder of The Content Code, a social media and influencer marketing agency where we work with some of the top global brands in the world, including Sports Illustrated and their prediction market, Time Magazine and their prediction market, as well as Chalkboard, which is one of the top sports betting companies in the world. Come from the creator space and having a personal roster doing over 1 billion social media views a month, and have now transitioned to owning The Content Code and getting to work with some of the biggest brands in the world.
And you have an announcement for us today?
And I am now the official sponsor of Rick Howe's Fireside Friday Chat.
Oh, wow.
This is my biggest accomplishment out of all.
There you go. All right, Natasha, who are you? What do you do?
I'm not Asher, and I don't have 50 million followers, unfortunately. However,
No, you have a much bigger audience.
yay. Yeah, like probably 25. But Natasha Hritzek, Warner Brothers Discovery. I run the corporate research team. So what my team is focused on is two prongs. We look at how do we optimize our current set of assets today in new and different ways, but we also peek ahead and look into the future. Where is the media and entertainment industry heading, and how do we future-proof against what we're observing? We're heavily focused on short form. Believe it or not, that was part of our future track because short form has not historically been the purview of studios like Warner Brothers or services like channels like HBO. We're very, very steeped in traditional movie making and TV making. So this was a bit of a culture clash that my team decided to step into, and we'll be talking a little bit about what we've learned from a consumer perspective and how we're adjusting the business at Warner Brothers Discovery to accommodate it.
Chris, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Chris Pizzurro, principal at Leap Media Group. At Leap, we have 3 lines of business. On the top end of the funnel, we create branded entertainment shows. So, for instance, Expedia is one of our clients. We have a new show, Go Visit Turkey, coming out later on this week on some platforms. Second line of business is we actually acquire and produce our own half-hour TV shows, some of which come from the social media side. And third, we have a programmatic trading desk, which brings ads into the CTV ecosystem.
Thank you. All right, Natasha, first question for you. When people in this business tend to talk about crypto, that's crypto with a C. You have a little white dog with a floppy ear. His name is Crypto, and he was the superstar of the new Superman movie. Now, when Crypto makes his own content, is it going to be short form or long form?
I would expect both. So for the record, I'm not aware of, we had Rick and I had a conversation. Yes. I'm like, wait, there's a movie? And he's like, you should know. I'm not aware of a movie coming up, but I think it is a fabulous idea. I think if we were to make a movie about crypto, I think it probably would have a youth orientation, so I think it would be appealing to younger generations, which is critical, I think, from a DC franchise perspective. But I think what we would probably do is, it would probably be a movie because we're building out the DC universe under James Gunn, but I think that there is a ton of potential to seed that well in advance. So if you think about, Superman came out this summer, there's going to be this long lead time before there's the next, whatever it's going to be in the installment. And I think this is where short form is so powerful because you can use it, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, as a vehicle for driving longitudinal engagement, keeping people interested in your franchises, seeding new characters, building fandom around new characters in that time that elapses between movies, the franchise coming out with the next title, or TV seasons. Sometimes there's a two-year wait between White Lotus season 3 and season 4, and I think short form is a very powerful vehicle for keeping that fandom alive and having it branch off in a ton of different interesting directions, and a lot of it is fan-led, which I think makes it much more interesting, much more authentic, and engaging for consumers than if we're top-down, managing all of that content.
So Warner Brothers Discovery has the opportunity to take a brand item or a character that you own, move it over to social media, but its purpose isn't to just sit around in social media and bark at people. You want it to go over there and bring people back to Warner Discovery, HBO, whatever it's going to be called, because you make money from that.
That's exactly right. So at present, I would say, again, I'm not sure what the long-term model is, but we would see anything we do in the short form universe as a way of driving engagement, driving eyeballs, driving discovery back to our core IP.
All right, now Braden, you're starting with stars at short form, including the guy who's not here today, Asher Lara, right? He's one of your clients. When I watched him, it looks like he's made a living out of being turned down to get dates with pretty girls. Now that may be very appealing to 13-year-old guys, but what is it that you do? I'm just talking about what Asher does. He's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, so I think there's two angles when it comes to content. Like when it's creator specific IP, it's helping them to grow and build out. We were talking about this earlier, like content series that will consistently work, right? Because we've all seen a creator that has flash in the pan moment where they post a video on TikTok, it does well once, they get a few million views, and then going forward they can't convert or really make content that creates a sustainable fan base and what I call like creator IP, right? The same way you guys would look at that, it's how do we build out creators that are substantial and actually mean something. So with Asher, for a good example, we built out his YouTube audience, and when I first started working with him, he was getting about 10,000 views per YouTube video. And when I stopped working with him specifically on the content side, we were getting about 1 million views per YouTube video. And what we did there was we grew his fan base from just being people that watch him on TikTok or Instagram on a very passive experience to then building out a YouTube series that we had a very high returning and engaged audience base where they actually keep coming back and watch his YouTube series, learn more about his life and more about his personality rather than him just making TikTok content or trends.
Now, would Asher's content, would you be interested in taking Asher's content over to somebody in the Warner Brothers Discovery house?
Yeah, so I think like the way we would traditionally work is, we've worked with Disney, we've worked with a few different, platforms or companies in the similar spaces. We've done it a few different ways. Usually it's, content series building up to an IP release or, movie or TV show. I think from Asher's content perspective, like the way I've seen creators work really well is, intertwining them through the actual filming process. I think Top Gun did a really good job where they had actual content creators on the set, making content with Tom Cruise, showing what that behind the scenes experience is. And instead of just having them market or, say, hey, go to the theaters right now and watch this movie, they're actually part of that movie making process and doing Top Gun challenges, etc. So I think, there's no black and white answer here, but I think that having the actual creators in the movie magic process and showing the fans how magical that experience is to get to actually be with Tom Cruise, be with Miles Teller in the cast, I think that really shows to the audience a lot more authentic view than them coming to a movie premiere or red carpet and just showing, a photo of them all dressed up.
Chris, you're in the business of helping people make money out of all this stuff, right? Yes. Can a content creator like Asher make money by himself? Does he make more money if he comes over to traditional TV? How does that feel? What does that look like?
I would put forth it's not instead of, but additive.
Okay.
And we've had great success with a baker, Gemma Stafford, Bigger Boulder Baking, huge YouTube, 10 million followers, 10 years, very successful in YouTube. they wanted to expand their business, right? Not cannibalize, but expand. So we started by doing making their 10-minute stir and stand videos into half-hour shows.
Wait. Did you just glump? That's a baking word. 3 10-minute episodes into a 30-minute show? Did you create a new show? There's an implication there.
Yeah, one of them's a new show. 4 of them were other footage put into a theme right around a holiday, right, whatever that may be. So that was all additive. Got them on to various linear broadcast and now on streaming channels, which has now led to them now doing the bigger, bolder baking network, and it's their whole app. So we went from YouTube to TV shows to 24/7 fast channel, and all of that's additive in the process. So,
Jennifer
good
Turner,
success.
you come from an exceedingly traditional background at Sony Entertainment and TriStar, and is TriStar even around anymore? It just got folded in. So
Right.
you made the jump to Mad Cool Media.
Yes,
What are you going to be doing there?
Yeah, well, so I was looking at where media is headed, which is democratized content, and also in my role at TriStar and NBC Universal and Disney ABC, over the years I've noticed a lot of really talented creators who did not get the opportunity to have their ideas greenlit. So I see white space in supporting creators of all different backgrounds, giving them the resources they need to tell their stories, from writing support, because to Braden's point, you know, a creator, especially in the digital space, may be great at creating a post that goes viral, but they don't really know how to create a series. They don't really know how to create a long-term content asset. That's where my particular expertise comes into play, because I actually know how to build scripted series. So I see an opportunity to support emerging creators of all different backgrounds to help them with their storytelling, with production, and I think the framing of the question as an either-or proposition, I think, is actually fundamentally incorrect. I think it is and. I think we need to look at content more globally and think about short form, think about long form, looking at how you can monetize content in short form verticals, but also look at how you can migrate that to FAST and to AVOD and to higher margin business. So I think, and especially with short form, you can look at ways to test and ideate ideas cheaply, quickly, get audience feedback, and then look at ways to incubate it there into longer form content formats that you can monetize at a higher margin rate on longer form platforms.
All right, one of our hypotheses coming into this was that a aggressive move towards short form content for a traditional television network or platform would allow content to be created less expensively than traditional long form episodes of Game of Thrones or whatever. Is that reasonable? Is that the future? Does that even make sense? Braden?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think what we're going to see, and Netflix and a lot of companies have started rolling this out. If you go on the Netflix app now, you can now see they have a short form vertical piece of the app where you can actually scroll, and it's very similar to TikTok, where it's Netflix clips, right? And this is already happening. It's not like a futuristic thing. Are they going to do this? How would this work? It's something that's actually happening. What they're showing is it's essentially previews and, you know, clips like a TikTok feed, but it's all clips from Netflix shows to pull you in, and it's used as, you know, bait to essentially get you to look at different shows. But it does it in a way that I think, you know, to the Gen Z audience is a lot more attractive than having to watch a full episode. I just think attention span has gotten depleted to the point that people will watch a TikTok scroll feed to pick their next show, but they're not going to watch the full 20-minute episode or, you know, even Google search about the show now. So I think the only way you can really get people engaged with the new IP or concept is through short form. So whether it's on social media content, UGC content with a creator, or it's the actual, you know, short form feed inside of your app, I think that is now the best hook or bait to get someone actually onto a platform.
All right. Well, one quick second, because this gets to what
I
you
know,
and
I'm
I
like,
talked
wait, I
about
have a
before. I know.
response.
That Netflix Clips app is free, right?
It's a part of the Netflix app.
So it's not free.
It's yeah.
You have to be a Netflix subscriber to see it.
Correct.
You do?
You would have to be a Netflix subscriber to see it, but if you look at the
Does anybody else besides me think that's a boneheaded mistake? It should be free to everybody so that you can click on it and go right to
If
Netflix.
it's a marketing tool, then.
Well, they're doing it as a marketing tool, right?
I think it's a fan base, so it's almost like a fan engagement perspective. So it's to the base of people that are already inside of Netflix, and the idea is they want someone that so if you're Netflix, you want people to have the easiest experience to finish one show. You finish Breaking Bad. How am I going to find my next show? Because if I don't, the chances I'm probably going to go to YouTube or scroll on TikTok and spend my time somewhere else. So Netflix's thought is it's like the quickest engagement tool that you want to use.
All right, so go on, let's go.
You've said a lot of things I agree with. I hate being contrarian, but
Oh, no.
you're like, oh, here she goes. This is not my opinion. We've just been doing a ton of research on Gen Z and Alpha because, when you think about our assets, HBO Max, we tend to tilt a little bit older, and that goes even with the unscripted side of the business. So we need to really unpack who these guys are and how do we attract their attention. And I think what we found that was really fascinating is that they have this, I think it's a totally unconscious division of labor. When they're on short form, they're on short form. It tends to be something they do throughout the day. But increasingly, they are seeing it. And I think we can all agree. I mean, I spend a disproportionate amount of my time on these platforms too. And you feel sort of depleted a little bit when you are doing it hour after hour after hour, because it's kind of low engagement, it's passive, it's a lot of quick turn visuals. And so then in the evenings, what we're finding is they set aside time to watch TV shows because they see it as a completely different occasion. It's much more lean in, it's much more emotionally engaging, and surprise, surprise, they put their phones away, and it's kind of their dedicated me time. And they get emotionally engrossed in these series. So something I mentioned in the previous session was that they're serial monogamous. They start a series and they actually look for series that have multiple seasons because they'll watch it straight through for 3 months and then sometimes even go back and rewatch it more for nostalgia and comfort. So I guess my broader point is that I think there's space. I don't think it's either or, and I think made a mistake initially is thinking of it as zero sum, and it's not. I think they're symbiotic, and I think there are very discrete usage occasions for both, which takes me back to the Netflix point. And I will happily, I could very much be wrong, and I probably will be wrong, but I don't think that having a TikTok experience on a streaming app is a good, I don't think it makes sense, because I think you're trying to get consumers to take a behavior that exists on another platform and fit it into a platform that's not adapted for that use. And I think changing fundamental behaviors, like if you're scrolling on a mobile phone and then it's like, it's autoplay scroll, I don't see it as being seamless from a consumer perspective, and I don't think consumers, especially younger consumers, are going to Netflix to get their short form experience. If it's purely a marketing tool, 100% it could be interesting, like instead of the autoplay, which I don't love, but I don't think it is short form. I think it's a marketing
think the biggest thing I'd say is I don't think it's them trying to steal time from TikTok or
Definitely
Instagram
not.
Reels. I think it's an internal marketing play.
They're
Because
dog
if
food,
you look at Gen Z, right, and just the attention span of Gen Z.
They have an attention span. They do.
Really?
Yeah, they do. But it's
15 or 16 seconds?
No, they'll watch hours and hours. So we found that they watch on average 2 to 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Binge watching is by definition something that requires an attention span, and they're big binge watchers, but
Yeah.
not during the day when they're scrolling and they're spending, look, that's 2 to 3 hours a day. They're probably spending 6 hours doing the.
So my 2 cents is I agree. There's the two different subsets of your brain, but I think Netflix's thought is if we can even get part of that daytime where they're scrolling and finding that new show, then that's the fan engagement right there, which is you're already on Netflix, you're scrolling through and you're finding that show.
It keeps them on platform.
Exactly.
Possibly.
Would that same strategy work for Paramount Plus? I mean, we pretty much assume Netflix, everybody has it. If they're going to be streaming, they've got Netflix. So for them, using Netflix as a subscriber acquisition tool might not have the value that Paramount Plus using it as a subscriber acquisition tool. Chris, you want to dig into that?
Yeah, I mean, so many thoughts, but I have like 8 of them, but I'll stick with the last one. First of all, when we have a show, whether that's a branded show from Expedia or one of our own shows, everything has some sort of old school tune-in promo unit to it. Whether that's on social, right, and driving over, what works extremely well is when you're already into the platform and what's called the hero banner, right? That first big impact thing, boy, let me tell you, it cost me a little more to get that unit, but boy, that unit
Works.
drives people to go watch your show. So I think there's the traditional aspect of just having a tune-in, old school, 30-second spot. Maybe you cut it down to 15 for social. And maybe you're putting that daytime, right? So then it starts to play into, okay, wait a minute, maybe I'm putting my 15 on social at daytime. I'm putting my hero banner to come up at 7p on the streaming service itself, right? You start to play in those strategies. So it's not only the length of the creative, but it's also the platform and the timing. All of which is, yeah, if you have a show, no matter what it is, and you're not doing promo, well, then what are you doing?
There you go. Jennifer?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna comment that I think that it's, in the case of what you were talking about, I don't know if that was a customer acquisition tool, is a stickiness tool, right? Because those are two different things. If you're already in the platform and it's about how do I get you to spend more time in the platform, that's one thing. If it's about how do I bring people to my platform, I think that's a completely different strategy.
Yeah,
It's definitely its stickiness. I agree
Yeah.
with you on that.
Yeah,
That's my
so,
2 cents.
and then the other thing I would also just say, again, just in just terms of like framing versus like it not being versus like short form versus long form, I think you have to think about content strategy and what is the right format for that particular content on that particular platform. So, and I think one of the challenges with like traditional media companies is that, you know, I think they're not really set up for doing short form content. And then there have been cases, and I will not name a particular platform where I saw this, where they have incubated social content and you know, that was started off as short form and then brought it over into their platform. And honestly, it was a little bit funky because it was like, you could look at it as sort of cheaper premium content or more expensive, cheaper content. And it was like neither betwixt or between. And it was not like your typical like 30-minute, half-hour shows. It was like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And so it was like, I think you have to figure out like, what do you do well? And that's what I think interesting about your strategy, and like lean into what you do well that is native to your platform and your audience. And then you can think about short form potentially as a marketing tool, as a way of driving back to the mothership. But when you try to like Frankenstein these things, I don't think it works. And the other thing I'll also just bring up is traditional media. You talked about White Lotus. It takes years to create something like that. Your traditional television networks and studios, there's a certain time. It can take 2 to 5 years to get a scripted show on the air, right? It's just like, that's, you know, speed, testing ideas, you know, responding to cultural shifts. That's just not what traditional studios and networks are set up for. So I think we just have to kind of decide like what we're good at and sort of optimize for that. Sorry.
If you mind if I just
Yeah,
follow
go
up,
ahead, man.
Just to stress one point. One thing we do now with all of the platforms, and not everyone can do this or does do this, but we say, here's a half-hour show. In addition to all the data I'm getting, I want time spent viewing to the episode. And if we have something that says, hey, on this platform, you're actually across those 4 shows, there's an average on people only watching your show for 12 minutes. Not 28, but 12. We'll cut a 12-minute video next time to your thing.
Yeah.
Don't try to shoehorn it. And it was interesting because the fast channels at first were like, no, we need the half-hour, blah, blah, blah. And now they're like, you know what, if you got 12 minutes, give them to me.
And now I want to piggyback on your point, which is data, right? A lot of times in a traditional media company, television and production and development sit in one business unit. Data and analytics can often sit in a sort of separate. And even if there is great information, sometimes that research and data and analytics does not actually inform the development process. So I think as we think about content creation going forward, we need to think about content more holistically. The development, the production, the distribution, the monetization at the same time, so that it is not a conveyor belt where it's like, we're gonna make something over here, us creatives, and then we're gonna kick it over to the distribution team and the marketing team to figure out how to sell it. It just doesn't work. And so I think it's important to be able to get that data, but then have a feedback loop from that data back into the actual creative process. Sorry.
And I think, no, I totally agree, and I think that's the magic of short form because it's low risk. Now, if you think about all the people creating UGC, so we've had our own internal debate about UGC. What we were able to demonstrate is that UGC is single-handedly keeping our library content alive and even driving younger viewers to shows like Big Bang, like The Wire, like Gilmore Girls, shows that might not even be in like Z's consciousness. I think Suits was kind of like our trigger, like, oh, we need to look into this. But I think I got so caught up in that. Now I've forgotten my point. Oh yes, the point actually, Braden, that you made, which is that the big leap was for marketing to realize that, you know, as budgets got cut, this became a huge opportunity for us to experiment with all sorts of different types of creative. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's on and off these platforms so quickly. And so one of the things we did recommend was what you said, Braden, which is that consumers have an endless thirst for seeing what's going on behind the scenes of the production process. They want to see the makeup going on. They want to see what people are eating at craft services. They want to see the set being built. They want to talk to the crew. And so anything that we can do, or have, you know, see the cast joking around, you know, between takes, all of that stuff is really engaging and gripping and interesting for people now because, you know, everything's out there in the open. It's no longer the mystique of Hollywood. And so we actually had the marketing teams talk to, you know, the talent and other people to say, hey, we're going to be filming while we're filming so that we can capture all that BTS. And then some of it gets out there as marketing content. Some of it gets out there as kind of more content to drive engagement. But there's so much richness, and it's rough. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It's just that kind of authenticity, so people feel, I think, even a deeper emotional connection to the content when they see what's going on.
Okay, we've got a few minutes. I want to interrupt. I want to use the dirty word in television, and that's the viewer.
Okay.
Are the expectations different? You made the point about something created on social media and then put over on traditional and it looked funky.
Yeah.
Was it funky because the viewer has an expectation of what's on the 65-inch LG, is LG in the room? 65-inch LG screen, there you go, versus on my iPhone? What are the viewer's expectations for television based on this device and a TV device? Braden,
I could, yeah.
Go for it.
you're right there,
So
buddy. That's yours.
I think that there definitely is an expectation there that the quality is going to be higher. I think especially when you see creators like Mr. Beast that are so mainstream now and just, you know, public figures, and you see the level of content they're making, spending millions of dollars, making content that, you know, costs a lot of money and is very high effort. I think that people do expect that, you know, when a creator makes a TV show, no matter how big the creator is, that they're going to elevate their content. Now, that still means that they're going to keep the authenticity, and if they're, you know, a baker like you're talking about, they're still doing their baking content, making their type of jokes and talking to their type of community, and, you know, they're not getting overly scripted or getting a whole makeup team that's going to make them look completely different or prosthetics, right? They're going to be authentic to their audience, but they're going to elevate that. And it could be elevated in a bunch of different senses, right? You know, the amount of money, if they do giveaways, the amount of money they're able to give away could be more. Their actual set could be a lot nicer, right? You know, if, as you see now, Netflix started acquiring podcasts, in-person podcasts. I would bet money that the sets are going to look a lot nicer with this Netflix deal. The camera quality is going to look a lot nicer, but the podcast is going to remain the same, right? What they talk about, their inside jokes, etc. That experience and connection that lures people in is not going to change. So I think it's upping the production value in senses, putting more money behind the actual show and the format and funding it. But I think it's keeping that authenticity because the viewer is going to expect that, right? If it's not authentically the creator, they're going to click off. And if it's not also higher production value, I believe they will also click off.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you because my arm's getting tired, and we've only got about a minute and a half left. I want to know, Jennifer, starting with you,
Okay.
what percent of television that we will see in 2 years, just 2 years, is going to be done by independent creators versus done by studios? And this is everything. the entire schedule, including sports and news and everything, is it 1%, 2%,
What is it
5%?
today?
What percent
What
of?
is it today?
Yeah, what are we?
Oh, I have no
That's a
idea what it
future
is
question
today.
without the-
It ain't a lot though.
I'm sorry, I'm not a researcher, but I play one on TV.
It's not a lot though, is it?
No, you asked the question.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
I kind of have to
Yeah,
agree with
well.
that in the sense that it's like, what base am I growing off of? But here's my question, I'm gonna answer your question with a question. It's like, sorry, you know, what is television? See, I think the whole concept of what television is changing dramatically. And it's like, so for younger viewers, like what you're holding right there is television. People are watching YouTube on television. Is that television? I would argue it is television, right? So, you know, I don't know. Could it be 50%? I think it's going to be a lot. I think that the television viewing landscape is going to look dramatically different in the next 2 years.
All right, so we'll change it. What percent of hours viewed? What percent of hours viewed will be creator created versus studio created? Okay.
So we track this, of course, being research, we track it pretty closely, and we're not seeing major shifts year over year. I mean, with the growth of TikTok, unless there's a major new platform entrant, I don't think anything is going to materially change. There has to be something that disrupts. In order for behaviors to change, I believe there has to be something extrinsic that comes in and shifts things. So, you know, I think the whole notion of like creator content landing on TV is a fascinating one. I think probably the best place for that would be in the world of unscripted, because unscripted already has a little bit of that looser, less polished vibe. But honestly, I don't know. I haven't seen those shows take off terribly well.
Braden?
Across the
Yeah,
board.
I mean,
Go
look,
ahead.
my 2 cents here is I think within the next 2 years we're going to see, you know, a very large multiplier in the amount of time that people are spending on YouTube on their TV. What you said, Jennifer, like we are very, very close with the team and partnership team at YouTube, and TV has now become the biggest platform. I'm sure there are people in this room that think that on your phone or on your computer or on your iPad is where YouTube is viewed the most. That is incorrect. It is on TV. So I believe in the next few years, YouTube on your TV will be the most watched thing because first of all, it's free and ad enabled. There's a ton of content no matter what you want to watch. You can also learn on there, so it's an education platform, and it can literally serve anyone from your kids to, you know, the oldest members in your
My
family.
85-year-old
Yeah, it doesn't
mother.
There you go.
matter. So I think
All right, hold on. We are done before somebody kicks me out. Chris, last comment.
Last comment, I do think you will see more snacking on traditional TV. So someone, instead of just scrolling during the day, they may watch a sitcom, but before they get into a drama, I just want to sit and scroll on my TV in between. So I do think you'll probably have the equivalent of what someone used to watch, maybe a half-hour show, is now replaced by 15 snacking videos in a half hour where I just
Lord
watch something.
Almighty. All right, and that doesn't come because you have somebody who does bigger, bolder baking and they're baking snacks. All right, be that as it
Thinking of
may.
that, but good idea.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, audience. We are done.